everyone, welcome to Awakening Astrology. I'm Heather Cohen. Today I'm going to talk to you about Mars. Mars is one of my favorite planets in astrology, and it's particularly momentous right now at the latter half of 2020. Mars is playing a large role in our lives as it transits Aries. So, Mars, as you may have guessed, is named after the Roman god of war, and so it rules warfare, ambition, aggression, drive. It's sort of the inner masculine or the masculine energy. And it has to do with passion, animal drive, sex drive. So it's a very sort of sexy, exciting planet. So we will be exploring Mars through the elements. And if you'd like to know where Mars lies in your chart, you can go to astrocafe.com/natal charts, and you should be able to input your birth data and find out where Mars is in your chart. In the meantime, those of us who are attracted to male partners, Mars will also indicate what type of man or male energy you will be most attracted to. So it's another thing to check out in your chart. So let's start with Mars in the fire signs, because Mars is the most at home in Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Mars is direct, rambunctious, no holds barred, passionate. In the fire signs, Mars will bring entrepreneurship, leadership, a lot of energy, a lot of spontaneity, creativity, and a natural desire to explore, strive, and adventure. So anyone who has Mars in a fire sign will have that in common. It's great for work. Mars in the fire signs can be challenging for aggression and anger. Oftentimes, those with Mars in fire will have to contend with impatience and a little bit of an explosive temper. You never don't know when Mars in a fire sign is upset or angry. They're very obvious, very direct, very straightforward. And so learning how to curb that great passion and spontaneity in expressing anger is one of the things that they'll have to figure out in this lifetime. Mars also rules action, so oftentimes people with Mars in a fire sign will need to be exercising often in order to channel that energy through their bodies and not as much towards other people. Mars, in terms of sex drive and sexuality, is an incredibly high sex drive, very passionate, very into the chase, whether it's a man or a woman. Really enjoys sexuality of all kinds, sort of like a no holds barred, very fun, very spontaneous, very creative sexual expression. So now we'll move on to Mars in the air signs, which would be Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini. Now Mars, as you can feel from my voice, cools down in the air signs. The air signs are cooler by nature. They're level-headed, logical, and it rules communication. So no matter what air sign you are, this applies to you. So Mars in the air signs is tactical, polished. They know how to communicate very persuasively to get what they want. Their work style will be very clever, resourceful, well-spoken, engaging. Their work could very well have to do with communications or use communication highly within their work. Mars in fire can have a less direct expression of anger, and it may be more of like an intellectual battle of wills. And even then, because air signs are so diplomatic, there'll be a level of polishedness to the expression of aggression. Again, whenever Mars is not in a fire sign, there'll be like a slight element of passive aggression where it'll have a little harder time expressing that direct Mars energy. When it comes to sexuality, the drive for air signs is really to connect mentally, to communicate. These are the signs that will be most turned on by role-playing or being different characters or talking dirty. The air signs really connect through the intellect and communication, and that can bring them into their bodies, because often the air signs are the ones that struggle most to inhabit the body. So we'll move on to the earth signs, and as I've said before, earth being Virgo, and Taurus are the ones that move very slowly. And so the fire of Mars is a little bit frustrated in earth signs. So there's sort of an element of frustration to their drive and their work style, but they work tirelessly. Earth signs are incredibly practical, devoted, willful, stubborn, like you can't stop them. So Mars in an earth sign will be incredibly successful in their work because they just don't stop. They don't stop till it's finished. And of course the earth sign also has to do with money and practicality and material things. So having the passion and the fire of Mars and the ambition pushed behind an earth sign makes for a very, very successful work life. And when it comes to anger and aggression, Mars in an earth sign will be slow to anger. It will take a long time, but when they get to the end of their line, they could explode and get very, very angry. But again, everything in earth signs moves slowly and steadily, even with the fire of Mars behind it. When it comes to sexuality, the earth signs are very embodied, and Mars supports this embodiment, but the earth signs bring a slower sensuality and physicality to sexuality and turn on for the earth signs. It's much more sensual sensory experience. So lastly, we'll go to the water signs, and Mars in water is almost the most frustrated. If you can imagine fire and water, they're not always the most compatible, and water is the least direct. It flows, it's more sensitive, more feminine, and so with Mars in an earth sign, you'll find a more indirect method of working. It's a lot of emotional passion behind work, so there'll be a lot of passionate energy, but it will be emotional. And oftentimes with Mars in a water sign, which would be Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, there'll be a focus in work that's more emotionally driven. So whether you're doing more therapeutic work or healing work, the drive and the fire behind that will be really, really passionate. Because fire is a little more slowed and dampened and foiled in water signs, it can be the placement that has the most passive aggression or someone who cries when they're angry. So often water signs, you'll see that feature. And when it comes to sexuality, having your Mars in a water sign can make for, again, a very sensual, erotic, flowy, really, really beautiful experience of sexuality. Water also will bring like a spiritual element to it. So it will be less sexual, more deep, emotional, erotic